Okay, guys, homeschool resource recommendation number 2, and that is old school iPods. The resource is old school iPods. I buy these off of eBay. Emphasis on old school because, and I should probably have like a warning that goes across the screen that says, do not get the iPod Touch. Do not do this with an iPad that is not locked down on parental controls. Do not do this with anything that can get on the internet, because mark my word, teenagers become IT technicians. They can get on whatever they can find on the internet by any kind of backdoor and do all kind of things and be exposed to all kind of things that are detrimental to them. So don't just assume, oh, my kid is okay and they're not going to look at anything. It's beyond them. You can, if you've been on the interwebs for any amount of time, you can stumble upon things that are disturbing. So spare your kids that, and get the old iPods that are not hooked on the Wi-Fi, that are not hooked on the internet, and that you can load with audiobooks and songs that you appreciate, songs that are edifying and that you would want your children to imbibe. So like I said, I got 2012, I believe, or earlier edition iPod Nanos, not the iPod Touch, the iPod Nanos, on eBay. They hold their value very well, so unfortunately they're not super cheap, but I almost should have done this video first, because I've got to say this is probably one of the things that I attribute most to my children's education. It allows me to replicate me. They're not dependent on me. They get so much value and benefit to having listened to so many hundreds and hundreds of audiobooks over the years, and this facilitated that. So here's what we do. We get the iPods, we use Apple Music or iTunes. I think it's all called Apple Music now, and I go on the Libby app, and I believe it's Libby for Apple and Overdrive for Android, and you can check out audiobooks from the local library using your local library card and number, and that has allowed us to go through and borrow audiobooks for 2 weeks at a time. And I'm not killing my budget, because as much as I like Audible, and I will buy Audible books when I can't find them at my public library, or I know it's something that I want to use for years on end, I just can't keep up with the amount of books that my children listen to. And so Libby or Overdrive, you can download the audiobooks and put them on an iPod. And because these are not on the internet, I just let my kids keep them in their room, and they can listen to them. They listen to them at bedtime, and they listen to them at their leisure. The only things on these iPods are worship songs and some like the national anthem and things that I want my kids to know, and audiobooks. And so if they're listening to it, I know they're listening to something that I'm cool with them listening to. So that is the resource. How do we incorporate? I tell you that at bedtime and at their leisure. And the objective or the goal of this, gosh, I don't have to reiterate all the studies that say that literacy or reading is a huge factor in academic success in general. The more you read, the greater your vocabulary. And I gotta say, my kids, I will have loaded their iPod with stuff, and my kids will come and reference and talk to me about things that I forgot that they should even have a reference on for it. So anywho, and this is the big one. They can understand and appreciate books that are beyond their reading level. So far before my children were actually reading physical books, they had listened and understood and imbibed Chronicles of Narnia and all kind of classic literature that they can understand and appreciate before they could actually read it themselves. And then a few of my kids have decided to go back and read some of the books that they've heard before, and they have a greater understanding of it and appreciation. So anyway, I cannot hands down recommend any one thing. If you're going to incorporate one thing into your homeschool to see some kind of forward movement academically, I gotta say it's the audio books. So I should perhaps recommend a couple audiobooks. So a couple of my favorites, I didn't really think this out before, but off the top of my head, a couple of my favorites are Echo by Pam Nunes. And Echo is so good. Echo is one of those books that you need to listen to an audiobook as opposed to actually reading it or in addition to. I actually recommended it to the dossier at the Holocaust Museum when we went there. Echo has, because it deals with 3 different time periods, Nazi Germany from a very unique perspective, I won't spoil it, early Depression era USA, and then with migrant workers during the USA, and then current times. But the audiobook is so special because it incorporates music, incorporates, believe it or not, classical harmonica, a lot of different really beautiful music scores that you would not get if you read the physical book. So it's one of them that I highly recommend. And again, for young readers, again, Chronicles of Narnia. They have lots of different audio versions, but there's a dramatized version on Audible that is more like a play that I really enjoyed. And also, a lot of audiobooks can reiterate curriculum that you might be using in other areas. We've in the past used Apology of Science. They have those available via audiobook. Story of the World, the Apologia Worldview series. There's a lot of audiobooks that you can get the textbook, a lot of textbooks that you can get the audiobook version of and kind of reiterate what you've read during class or read during your homeschool meeting or whatever, and really just get the benefit, because it takes repetition. It takes a lot of exposure to get something really grounded into. So that is my homeschool recommended resource number 2 for day number 2 of 30 of homeschool resources. If you have an audiobook that you particularly love, or that you're like, why haven't you mentioned this one? This is the best audiobook ever. Yeah, put it in the comments, because I'm open for suggestions. I would like to have some more recommendations on audiobooks. So yeah, did that. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.